Hey girl, welcome back to the Her Best Self podcast. It is Eating Disorder Awareness Week here, and I want to talk about the truth around eating disorders. I'm going to share some important statistics with you today, and this is an episode that you yourself, if you are struggling with disordered eating or an eating disorder, I encourage you to listen in because I'm going to give you some valuable and important information for you that's going to have you thinking about sticking around and hanging out in this disordered mindset any longer than you are right now. And it's going to give you that inspiration to trudge forward and to do the dang thing. And if you are a loved one of someone who does struggle with an unhealthy relationship with their body and food, then today's episode is also going to help you. I encourage you to share this with a friend or somebody that you love. It is important to raise awareness for eating disorders because they are a mental illness that is not a phase and not a choice and not something that you can just easily get rid of. All right, friend, let's dive into today's show. Hey girl, welcome to the Her Best Self podcast. I'm Lindsey, former competitive figure skater and perfectionist, turned God-led imperfect boy mom and digital CEO. If you find yourself constantly thinking about food and wondering if you'll wake up one day free from the obsessive thoughts and behaviors controlling your life, then I've created this podcast for you because I know exactly what it's like to be a downright hot mess trapped in a destructive cycle of disordered eating. I finally found freedom and you can too, girlfriend. So if you're ready to heal your relationship with food and body and break the chains of control and show up in your best health, then grab your favorite Tarjay journal and let's get to it so you can start living your best life as your best self. This week is National Eating Disorder Awareness Week, and I felt called to dedicate today's episode to shedding light on these often misunderstood conditions. Whether you're personally struggling, girl, with an eating disorder, or you are supporting a loved one in your life who is, or you're just wanting to educate yourself, then this episode is for you today. I'm going to go beyond the surface to uncover some hidden truths about eating disorders with you, and we are going to pull info that is backed by statistics that might surprise you. And more importantly, I'll be sharing tangible ways that you can support yourself or someone that you love who is fighting this battle. The real reality here, sis, is that eating disorders are much more than just food. And I want to share this because I remember when I was struggling with my eating disorder, I had a friend at the time that just wanted to get me help and support. And she kept saying, Lindsey, why don't you just eat? Like, why don't we just go out to lunch and you eat? But I want to talk about what eating disorders actually are because there is so much misinformation out there. Eating disorders are serious mental health conditions that are characterized by disturbing eating behaviors and related thoughts and emotions. They're not lifestyle choices, they're not phases or vanity issues. These are complex illnesses with biological and psychological and social components to them. And here's a real truth that might actually shock you. Eating disorders have the second highest mortality rate of any mental illness, surpassed only by opioid addiction. And according to research from the National Association of Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Disorders, someone dies every 52 minutes as a direct result of an eating disorder. Despite the severity, only about a third of people with eating disorders will ever receive treatment. And the gap in care here really is devastating, especially when we consider that early intervention significantly improves outcomes. But one thing to shed light on here is that it is a mental health condition. You are not wrong if you struggle with these behaviors and these thoughts and this voice inside of your mind that talks to you all day long. This is not a choice, friend. The way that I want you to think about this is just like cancer is an illness, so are eating disorders. And whether you or your loved one have a diagnosis or not, your disordered relationship with food or their disordered relationship with food and their body and your self-worth is very, very serious. And it can't just be fixed by going out to lunch or eating a burger or whatever. Those are things that people will say that might be misinformed about what really goes on in the mind of somebody who struggles. So I want to get past the stereotypes. Who really struggles from eating disorders? So this is another misconception. And the stereotype when we think about those who struggle is a young, white female, right? But the reality when we think about it isn't just that model or that influencer that we follow on Instagram. Now, maybe she does have an eating disorder, but eating disorders don't discriminate. About 30 million Americans struggle with an eating disorder in their lifetime, and up to 15% of those are male. Likely, though, that number is underreported because, again, this is a mental illness that I truly feel is not even yet talked about as much as it should be. Hence why I wanted to totally blow up this podcast. Eating disorders can be developed by people of all races, all ethnicities, all ages, socioeconomic backgrounds, and body types. It doesn't matter. 13% of women over 50 engage in eating disorder behaviors. Athletes are 2 to 3 times at a higher risk for developing eating disorders than the general population. But I want to pause here and emphasize this point. You cannot tell if someone has an eating disorder just by looking at them. We have to stop being so stereotypical and judgmental because most people with eating disorders, friend, aren't underweight. And many are actually of average weight or even a higher weight. The National Eating Disorder Association reports less than 6% of people with eating disorders are classified as being underweight. And when I was struggling with my own eating disorder, so many people missed the signs because at first I didn't look like someone with anorexia. Over time, obviously, my anorexia took over my mind, and that came with the physical changes that occurred. But it was so far from when I started those unhealthy relationships. The reality is that suffering doesn't have a specific look. And it's important that we move beyond the stereotype to truly understand eating disorders. When we talk about eating disorders, most people immediately think of anorexia or bulimia, but these represent only a portion of eating disorders. Binge eating disorder is actually the most common eating disorder in the US, affecting 2.8% of all Americans. And avoidant restrictive food intake disorder affects about 5% of children. Other specified feeding or eating disorder affects up to 5% of the population. But all of these mental illnesses are serious and can have severe health consequences if left untreated. So something I always emphasize is that eating disorders are never just about food or weight. They affect every single aspect of your life or the person that you love. And 50 to 75% of individuals who struggle also have depression or anxiety. And people with eating disorders often report difficulty concentrating, difficulty making decisions, and clearly thinking due to malnutrition. And maybe you're there. Maybe you feel like, oh, I just have brain fog or I have low energy. This is why relationships suffer as the individual becomes more and more isolated. Financial impacts can be significant as you're trying to whittle your way out of this. But when I was in the depths of my eating disorder, I couldn't be present for the people that I love. If I'm honest, I was constantly trapped in my head, obsessing over food and exercise. It's all I focused on. I couldn't even go to an event, much less prepare for a barbecue or get dressed for one. What was I going to eat there? How was I going to get out of it? That's the reality of these illnesses. They rob you of your ability to fully participate in your own life. But here's what to look out for. If you're concerned about yourself right now or someone that you love, these are the signs that I want you to check in on. Dramatic weight changes, whether that's a loss or a gain. This constant preoccupation with weight, food, calories, measuring, dieting, excessive exercise, even if you're sick or you're injured. Like if you have to go to the gym and you have the flu, what is the reasoning behind that? Withdrawal from your friends and activities. I just talked about that isolation. Constant concerns about being fat or gaining weight. If you find your loved one immediately going to the bathroom after every meal or doing food rituals like excessive chewing, only eating certain foods, not allowing foods to touch certain things, or maybe you're dizzy often, especially when you're standing, or you're feeling cold all the time, or maybe you've lost your menstrual cycle. I want you to think about some of these things. And remember, you don't need to check every box to be struggling. Eating disorders present differently in different people. The main highlight here and thing that I want to emphasize is that it's important to find support because you cannot do this alone. And your loved one, if they are struggling, they can't do this alone either. So let's talk about what you can do if someone that you care about is struggling with an eating disorder. And if you're listening to this show, it's probably you as well, friend. And so it's okay to feel helpless. It's okay to feel like you just don't know the right next step. I want you to educate yourself. Do some research, okay? Use reputable sources like the National Eating Disorder Association or the Alliance for Eating Disorder Awareness, and understanding the condition will help you to be able to provide better support. If my friend had understood that I couldn't just go have lunch or I couldn't just go eat a burger, then maybe that comment would have been different and it would have touched me to actually get support versus pushing me deeper into the disorder, thinking she just doesn't understand. Then I want you to approach compassionately, either with yourself or the person in your life that is struggling. And this means really getting real. If you're setting up an intervention with a friend or a family member, choose a comfortable private setting and a time where it's not revolved around food and there's not a rush or there's not stress. And you can use I statements. Okay, I'll give you an example. I've noticed that you seem to be struggling with food lately, and I'm concerned about you, and I love you. Not, I think you have an eating disorder and I'm going to force you into a treatment facility, right? There is a way to approach this conversation. Listen without judgment. Allow them to share their feelings without interrupting or offering solutions immediately, and validate that their emotions matter, even if you don't understand them. I want you to think about not commenting on appearance, weight, or how much somebody's eating or their body. Avoid talking about diets. Avoid talking about exercise routines or calorie counts. Think about what you're modeling and encourage professional help. Suggest that your loved ones speak with a healthcare provider who specializes in eating disorders. Coaches are also great to come alongside you. This is exactly what myself and team do. And even finding helpful resources for continued support for them is so important. Whether it is you struggling or a loved one, recovery is rarely linear. There's going to be good days, there's going to be challenging days. And so being patient with yourself and that person that you love is so important, but so is being consistent. And then I want you to take care of yourself. If you're supporting somebody, this is emotionally taxing. I want you to ensure that you're also attending to your own needs. And again, model the behavior. I will never forget that my mom was approaching me once about my eating disorder and telling me how she didn't understand why I always chose a salad with dressing on the side. But then we went to lunch and she got a salad. And I was like, wait, how is it okay for her to do that and it's not okay for me? Yes, my mom was the beacon in my recovery. But what I want to emphasize here is that you cannot force someone to recover. Change has to come from within them. And if you are struggling, you know this. If you're supporting someone and you love someone, you can create a safe environment where recovery becomes possible because you're showing them and modeling the way. And if you or someone you know is struggling, I want you to reach out for help. This cannot be done by yourself. There are numerous communities, support groups. You can come out to herbestselfsociety.com. We're a private Facebook community online and you can hang out with us. No one should have to do this by themselves. But before we wrap up today's episode, I just want to share a personal message with you, sis, who's listening right now and is truly struggling with your eating disorder. Your eating disorder is going to tell you that you need it to survive. It's going to tell you that it's going to keep you safe. It's going to give you all those false promises that you're not sick enough for help, that you'll never recover. But these are all lies. Every single one of them. And I remember feeling like I would never break free from the prison of my own eating disorder and my own mind. And the thought of recovery seemed not just impossible, but extremely terrifying. Why would I ever jump into that? Why would you? No one's going to jump into a fire, right? Who would I be though without these behaviors? And that was really one of the hardest things for me, was that my eating disorder became my entire identity. And that is very much so in all of my clients. But I'm here to tell you that you have life on the other side, and it is going to be better than you can imagine, because mine is better than I ever could have imagined. The freedom to eat without counting every calorie, the freedom to exercise because it feels good rather than punishment, to be fully present in moments with my family instead of mentally calculating how many minutes I needed to exercise to earn my next meal. This is what recovery gave me. And it's not perfect. Sis, partnering with a coach or a therapist is going to give you the tools to recognize that these are just lies and it is what it is and they're thoughts, but they're not truths and they don't have power over you unless you give power to them. If you're in a dark place right now, I want you to hear me. You deserve recovery and you deserve freedom and you deserve a life where food and exercise don't consume your every waking thought. And that is so possible. As we observe National Eating Disorder Awareness Week, I hope this episode has provided some valuable insights and practical ways to support you and those that you love that are affected by eating disorders. But I want you to remember that awareness is just the first step, sis, and action and compassion and ongoing support are what truly make a difference. If today's episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might benefit. The more that we talk openly about eating disorders, the more we chip away at the stigma that keeps so many suffering in silence. I'll talk to you again soon, girl. Until then, keep moving forward to become your best self. Oh, friend, thank you so much for letting me share what was on my heart today. My hope for this podcast is to help more women find freedom from food and body. If this has empowered or blessed you, let me know. I'd be honored for your rating and review of my show, and I'd love to connect with you in my private Facebook community. You really can move from perfection to purpose. Let's break the chains together. I'll help navigate the way. Until next time, bye for now, girl.